To me, the fall is all about the amazing colors, the wonderful smells, and campfires. And in today's projects, we're going to be creating bowl fillers, which covers all three of those. It'll make wonderful home decor, and if you're a booth owner, even better. These are great, easy projects for a quick profit. I'm Kathy with Waste.Not.Upcycled. I'm a full-time teacher and a part-time reseller and upcycler. Let's get started. For project number 1, I'm using fabric that my mom had given me, old curtains that she no longer used, as well as croquet balls. I'm going to be hot gluing, so I'm going to turn this on while I go ahead and cut out my fabric. I chose this fabric because I really liked the little eyelets that were in this fabric, and I thought that they would look really good. Not to mention that when you pull this fabric, it creates like a distressed, and that's what you want to look for when you choose fabric for this project. You want those distressed edgings around it. It's going to give it more texture. And I know there's plenty of fabric that you could purchase out there, but I highly recommend those old shirts that maybe are stained or different. Get creative with reusing fabric. Like I mentioned, this fabric actually is from my mom. She had a bunch of old curtains that were no longer being used and they were soiled in places. So I decided to take all of it, and I've made numerous projects. So as you see, I had created strips. In this, I cut my strips, but as I created a bunch of these, I realized I did not need to cut them into pieces. Having one long strip would save me a lot more time. So as you can see, I'm just going to go through, and this is just going to be the base of my mummy's head. I'm hot gluing it in little spots. I'm making sure I go in all different directions, and truly my goal is to make sure that the color of the croquet ball is covered and there's a nice solid foundation. Once it's all covered, I'm going to go back in and I'll take those strips and split them in half. So I want tiny strips, and take a look and see if you notice how it's beginning to form shape. I'll continue to reinforce it just by putting a little dot of glue every once in a while, and I am very purposeful in making sure I go all different directions. I love the way it looks, and then I also love how it's distressed and there's string kind of sticking up everywhere. This is exactly what I wanted it to look like. Time for those button eyes, and I have plenty of buttons to choose from. I highly recommend those Goodwill little bags. I've bought lots of buttons that way. Although I love the classic buttons in a jar, as I'm going through all these, I'm thinking I probably should find some button projects. Okay, so I sorted them all out, found some fun ones, and now it's time to hot glue them on. It's been a while since I've sewn, so my actual supplies are pretty much nothing. So I actually went into some of the vintage sewing supplies that I had found at an estate sale and borrowed those. Put a tiny knot at the end of the thread, and I'm sneaking it underneath the fabric to go across. So the nice thing is that the fabric's pretty thin. It was easy to get across. And then I just want a straight line. So I'm going to bring the needle back to where that knot is, loop it through, and there's my straight line. The nice thing is that this is kind of a primitive looking mummy. So if there's little knots or little errors, it kind of goes with the look I'm going for. For those parallel lines, you'll see I'm really careful where my needle pulls out. It's going to kind of match up with the bottom lines every time. And then that way I could loop back over and pull that straight line through. I'm always bringing it to the next, where that next line is going, pull it through, and I have a really big needle that I'm working with. It makes it a little bit trickier. I decided I wanted to add a little bit more length onto the size of the smile, or it's not really a smile, but the size of the mouth, because I want it to be 4 lines going up and down. So I'm going to quickly add a little bit of length to it. And then again, I'm going to pull the needle back out at the bottom and then loop it back over to the top. And then I'm going to end up where the tip of my smile is. And then I'm going to work a little, I'm going to knot it so that this thread is good. And cut it. Now I'm okay if a little bit of thread pokes out where that knot is on both sides, because like I said, these are primitive little mummies. So I want that look to kind of happen. I am so pleased with him. He's cute. So I made a bunch of these. I continued on and made a bunch. I really like the solid weight that these have because they are the vintage croquet balls. But truly, you can make these with anything. You can find, like my boys played baseball growing up and we had an overabundance of baseballs. You can make giant ones with softballs, tennis. I mean, the list could go on, little mini golf balls. So these are just absolutely fun, and the different sizes make it fun. I'm in love with these. Tell me what you think. I am obsessed with campfires, and fall is the best time for them. So this project, you're going to need old candle wax. I'm using cupcake tins, a muffin tin, tea lights, buy those at Goodwill. They're way cheaper. And then just some odds and ends that you could put into these little candles at the end. So basically I'm going to go ahead, and I'm only making 3 today for this video. I'm all about wasting not, hence my name, Waste.Not.Upcycled. So I take old candles, that leftover part at the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to evenly put it into these muffin tins. Once it's full, I'm going to set the oven for 250 and let it sit in there for about 5 minutes. The house smells amazing. We're creating little fire starters for campfires. So I'm going to pop these tea lights out of the metal tin. And then the wick is the most important part of this. I'm just getting this ready while everything is melting. And then I'm also going to pull in some items that I would like to put into my fire starter. For all fall scented candles, they are melted, not completely, but that's okay. I'm going to set the tea light into each one. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to cover it with that wet wax. I want them submerged, but I want to make sure that that wick is still sticking up. This is one way I've made this project. Another way I've done it is taking those candle pieces, melting them down in a wax melter, and then pouring it into the muffin tins. That's a lot messier, so I recommend this way. I'm going to decorate these up with a tiny piece of greenery. I'm going to put in some of those little mini pine cones. You can do this for all seasons. I've made a bunch for the holidays as well. And then because it's kind of all melted together as one color, I'm going to go back in and stick tiny little pieces of that wax from the old candle to give it a little bit more color and decoration. These smell great. They're perfect for fall. Not only are they wonderful for selling at booths or keeping for yourself, but these make really great gifts. So I'm going to let these sit on the side. It doesn't take long for them to harden. Once they're done, they pop right out. I usually try to save that cupcake liner, but I've used these quite a few times. So these are done, but they are, they usually get a good couple uses out of them. And then I love to use those netted bags so people can see what they are and pair them together. I'll drop the link down below. I get great use out of these bags. I use them for a lot of my crayon products as well. And then this is just another great way you can use them. So like I said, these make great fire starters. They can also burn on their own. Project 3 is all about the fall smells. I grabbed this Potpourri, this huge bag of fall for $1.99, and also this oil. I put it all in a huge container and decided to break it all up into these canvas bags that I purchased from Amazon. Now, I did spray the oil, a little bit of the oil, although for $1.99, this had a great scent and it smelled like kind of that fall pumpkin-y smell. The burlap bags were thankfully thin enough that you could smell that fall smell. It came with over 50 in the bag, so I filled up as many as I could to make these sachets. I figured these were great for sticking around the house or in drawers. I think I made about 18 and have a ton of those canvas bags left over. Those canvas bags are about 3 cents each. I'm going to be labeling these bags, and I decided originally I was going to use tags, wooden tags, but I decided to create tags out of this cardstock stationery. It's already kind of bleached with different fall colors, and I have my stamp pads, so I am cutting it into the same size. These sachet bags are all about fall smells, so that's what I'm going to stamp onto these tags. I lay out my tags, and I'm going to do about, I think I had 18 or so. And rather than doing one at a time, I'm doing these in bulk. Love how these tags are turning out, and each one's a little bit unique. So these are going to get hole punched, and then I'll be sticking them onto the canvas bag. While out thrifting, definitely keep your eye out for those giant bags of potpourri. As you saw, I only paid $2 for that giant bag, and I'm making a lot of bowl fillers. They're going in my booth, plus I'm keeping some for myself. So that wraps it up for the 3 easy DIY bowl fillers. Now I'm using some other things in place of bowls. I have a 2-tiered shelf that I have for sale in my booth, as well as some drawers. I would love for you to let me know what your favorite project was, if you've tried any of these or plan to. And if you're not yet a subscriber, definitely hit that subscribe button. I would love for you to follow my journey. Thanks again for watching.